Hi, it's Gary Jublin. This podcast was made possible by subscribers of True Crime Australia. For early access to every podcast episode and subscriber-only content like videos of my interviews, please visit truecrimeaustralia.com.au. Click the subscribe button at the top right-hand corner and follow the prompts. In part one, we took you into the world of the outlaw motorcycle gangs. This episode, we're going to take you into the prison. Cunno will answer a lot of questions I'm sure you will have about what it's like hearing those prison doors slam shut behind you. He'll tell you how he survived in prison, where the rules are completely different to the world most people know. Welcome back to part two of our guest, Cunno, on I Catch Killers. If part one wasn't heavy enough, now we're going to delve into the world inside prisons. Mate, prison.
Yep.
At 17, you're a kid, you think you're a man, and
I was a bikie.
You're a bikie at that stage?
I was a bikie. I was fucking wearing non-patch with the first club I rode with, and I was a bikie.
So
what the fuck was I doing in a children's home?
Is that what you told the magistrate?
Yeah. I said, I'm a fucking man. I ride with the bike club. Put me in fucking jail with the men, not in a fucking kids' home. So he did. Was
that one of your better calls?
Yeah. No, I got to... Am I allowed to mention the name of the jail?
Yeah, you can mention it.
I got to Maitland Jail, which is one of the toughest jails in the state, if not the toughest.
Yeah.
And they put me in the cell for the night with a shit. From memory, I had a shit can there as well. I'm not 100%. I know I had one at Tamworth. They put me in this cell, and I looked at the cell, and honestly, mate, it looked like a toilet.
Yeah.
It had I can't even remember if it had a basin in Maitland at that stage, to be honest. It's a long time ago, but I got in the cell, they locked the door, and I put one palm on one wall of the cell and touched the other wall of the cell flat palmed with my other arm. And then I turned around and looked at the space at the end of the bed, which I think was about a foot or a foot and a half at the end of the bed. I just went, fuck this, get me out of here and put me back where I came from.
Yeah. So how long did you get sentenced? What was the sentence? What was the offence?
From memory, it was 6 months for a driving charge.
Yeah.
Driver was qualified from memory. And I was on bail and awaiting another charge of malicious wounding at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
What was that one?
Stabbing at King's Cross.
Right. Is that gang related?
In a way not. Like I was with the members of a club I shut down when I was young. I was about 15, I think, and I was with those guys at the cross. And yeah, a busload of young fellas, I guess, on a night out, Bucks night, I think it was. Started a fight, and one of them got stabbed. And yeah.
Right. So 6 months.
6 months for driving charge, yeah. And then I think a second.
Just talk us through it. So you're 17. You go to court.
Yep.
You got.
I was put into a children's home.
Okay. So and you're a
children's remand centre.
Fair lump of a lad at that stage. So that wouldn't have been too daunting for you.
Yeah, I think I was about 15 and a half stone and 6'4" at that time.
Yeah. And you've gone to court, and the magistrate. You're 17, so you could have still argued that you should be in the juvenile detention centre rather than the prison. But you've decided a good idea to speak up and say, well, stuff you. I'm a member. I want to go to the men's prison.
Yep.
So what happens there? Because we see it on movies, you see it on TV, you read about it, but you're put in the prison van and you're driving into the gates of a prison. And this is the first time you've gone to an adult prison. What was going through your mind?
Fuck, I don't remember, to be honest. Nothing. I don't know. I honestly don't know, mate. I can't remember. But it was nothing distressing, if you like, because I wouldn't remember that.
You weren't scared?
No.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't a dog. I fucking, I stood up for myself. I was fine, I thought.
Right.
And turns out I was.
So you go in there, you're shown into your cell that you're described as a toilet block.
Yep.
And the first time you walk out in the yard or the meal room, how do you find your friends? Or have you got any friends? Like it's intimidating enough to go to a school for the first time. What's it like going to prison and walking out to the yard?
Well, it was quite funny because I actually ran into some people from around the old area when I was a kid, names that I knew and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they knew of me. So yeah, it wasn't stressful or anything. It was just like the cell was what fucked me off. So am I supposed to fucking sleep in here and move in here, sort of thing? And the 18 hours a day locked in that hole. You're allowed out 6 hours a day. And I met blokes like, am I allowed to mention who I met or not?
Yeah, we can beep it out if we need to. So,
Well, they're well-known names. Mate.
Yeah,
They're very
okay,
well-known
yeah,
because
okay,
of the
yeah.
Arthur, fucking Joey,
They're a heavy crew.
yeah, I mean, blokes like that. The blokes that were in that jail at the time were killers, robbers, like you name it.
Did you have to form alliances in there?
Back in the day, no. If you stood up for yourself, you were respected, basically. I think if you were known, by people that crims that were in there knew, then you were fine. Oh, I can't remember I can't remember his last name, but this big guy, he was a big Maori fella in there doing a lag for murder. Was sitting next to Peter, another well-known crim. And like I say, I was the 17-year-old young fella in there, Bikie, fucking hard cunt, all that shit.
And you would have had attitude written all over you?
I must have, because that bloke I just mentioned, Peter, he grabbed me by the goatee, the little goatee that I had, and I just fucking lost it, fucking jumped up, stood back, ready to go for it, and it didn't happen at the time. But I think he just wanted to see my reaction to it, and the reaction was what it should have been.
That's the right reaction inside?
Fuck yeah, mate, I was prepared to die then and there for whatever took place once I stood up.
Right. And what's the consequences if you didn't do that?
You'd end up someone's bitch.
Like, yeah, that's another side of it. But that's a fear I think a lot of people genuinely have in going in the prison. But that's basically it. You don't stand up for yourself, you get walked over. Yeah,
you don't have to stand tall. You just got to stand up.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
Was my philosophy. And, yeah.
So you'd get respect, even if you punched on with that bloke and he might have got the better of you. If he did get the better of you, you'd still have respect for the fact that you stood up.
I would have come back with a blade.
Yeah.
That was what it took in the day to be left alone, basically, was to at least stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
And anybody who didn't fell by the wayside.
And it escalated to that point. Like if someone was, because there's some, pardon the French of you said, but there's some crazy cunts in there.
There was Phil, Phil was his name.
Yeah.
It was at the back of, there was a hairdresser's area at the back of the Maitland Jail deputies block.
Yeah.
Admin block, if you like. And there was a guy getting a haircut, a pair of scissors out, there was everything around. And this particular bloke, I heard the first club I was getting rode with, and a particular member's name mentioned, and the fact that he was a weak cunt. And I took offence to it, and I said, fucking, I'm one of those members, mate. And I said, I'm no fucking weak cunt, I can tell you right now. And he said, I'm a mad cunt, mate. I'll fucking stab you. I said, well, off and get your fucking blade then, dickhead. And he did. He ran. He took off. And I took my green, you wear greens in jail.
Yeah.
And I took my green jumper off that I was wearing, the sloppy Joe, and I wrapped it around my left arm and waited for him to come back. I was just doing laps behind the depth block, waiting for him to come back with his blade. I was happy to take him on with it.
And that was wrapping it around your left arm, just so those mightn't know what you've got to do in a knife fight. That's just to protect your arm or something you can block it with.
Exactly.
So that's stressful.
It was what it was
if you look back now, that's stress. Like, yeah, you're going to have to fight to live, basically, and earn your place in there.
I mean, yeah, like I said, I was prepared to fucking take on with that blade, and if it killed me, it killed me. If I got it over him, well, he wouldn't do it again.
What you just said there too, that was it wasn't the fight coming to you. That's where you've decided to step in there and create the fight.
Like I said to him, mate, he was saying that all them fucking particular bikies from this particular bikie club are weak cunts.
Yeah.
I'm one of them, and I ain't no weak cunt. I was prepared to prove it.
Psychologically, you said spending 18 hours in the cell, and I've often tried to put myself in that position, how you would go. You'd be bouncing off the walls, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, if you've got nothing to do, absolutely nothing.
Did you have a TV, radio, book, or...?
I was lucky, I did. I had a TV, I had a stereo, I had books, I could... get money dropped off and property dropped off, whatever.
Yeah.
Some people don't have that, mate. They don't have anything, and their life is that empty fucking cell with a toilet bowl, and a bloody sink.
And that's to come down to the fact whether if they don't have anyone with money or they didn't come in there with money, if that's a privilege that you got to pay for.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's all the bullshit corruption. There's TV rentals, there's fucking drug sales, there's smokes are used for dealing. Buy-ups where you can buy like a weekly amount of food and smokes and stuff like that, toiletries each week. They're used to trade, all sorts of stuff.
And how do the corrective services control? Do you get your TV taken off you, or you?
Oh yeah, I'm just trying to think whether that actually happened to me. I think it might have actually at Bathurst Jail.
I can't believe you behaved yourself the whole time in jail. You would
I
have done something stupid.
I never behaved, mate.
Yeah,
I never behaved, but You've got to be able to live in the surroundings you're in too, you know.
And that goes for, I'm generalising here, and I would imagine it doesn't come across that way, but was there respect given or just utter hate? Or
some were just fucking Nazis, you know, like fucking you're a crook, you're in jail, and I'm here to fucking punish you.
Yeah.
You know, that was their attitude, you know, and that could make life hell for both us and them.
Yeah.
You know, and there was the others who, you know, as long as you didn't put it in their face, like I'll give you an example. I got caught tattooing one day, tattooing one of the members of the first club I rode with in Parramatta jail. And the three striper from the office downstairs fucking come up looking for, I think he was looking for me. And he walked in while I was doing a back job, doing the patch on this guy's back.
Yeah.
And he fucking looked at me, and I was halfway through it. I said, I can't leave it undone. He said, bring me the fucking thing when you're finished. You know, and I walked downstairs. I took the needle out of it. I basically gave him the toothbrush that was bent in half to tape the motor to.
Yeah.
I took the motor off it, kept the motor and the needle, and gave him the bent toothbrush.
Right.
He fucking just shook his head at me, laughed, and said, fuck off.
Because the amount of jail tattoos that people come out with, like, pretty hard to hide. It's doing so that was sort of tolerated and just okay. Well,
don't get caught.
Yeah.
If you're dumb enough to get yourself caught, well, then I've got to deal with it.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You know, but there's another profession where I've seen it all too. You know, I've seen crooked prison officers. You know, I've seen the fucking shit that they can cause with the shit that they're prepared to do for money.
Yeah.
Drugs, weapons, mobile phones, money. Fuck, you name it, property come in from crooked prison officers for an amount, you know. $500 would get you a shoebox in certain places. Didn't matter what was in it. You take the shoebox shut with what you had in it and what you wanted to get in. He got paid the money. He didn't look in the shoebox. You got the shoebox the next night.
And that's the drugs coming through?
Drugs, like I say, drugs, phones, weapons, money, you know, needles, fuck, you name it. You name it.
What about training in there? Like I see people go inside and they come out all muscled up and all that.
80s, early 90s, you know, that was pretty much all you had to do was training and work in your $12 a week, fucking, or $10 a week, buddy.
And they'd let you with gym equipment, weights and chin-up bars and whatnot?
Certain places did, you know, like there was a lot of bloody assaults and killings that were done with weight bars and free weights, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where those free weights were then welded to the bars and, you know, and there was a lot more restrictions placed on weight training in the gym and shit like that. But in the early years, mate, there was free weights. There was as much as you wanted, and you could train as often as you wanted.
Because people used to come out muscled up, and
well, I went in there 6'4" and 15.5 stone. I went up to, I think I came out the first time that I did a long leg. I came out at 19.5 stone after 6 months, and I started benching 100 pounds 10 times. I think I did it 10 or 11 times. By the time I came out, or sort of tapered off on the training 6 months later, I was benching 400 pounds. Shit. Deadlifting 650, shrugging 450, 120, 130 on the dumbbell curls. It was just no. But I trained 6 days a week. That was all I had to do basically, and I just got huge.
And what about, how does the food go with your training? Talking like the jail's a gym, but I'm just trying to...
Yeah, there again, we had the rorts with the kitchen. You get someone in the kitchen that you knew, and, you paid them in pot or fucking whatever, whatever you dealt in, you paid them in to get your food, chunks of steak or fucking whatever, eggs, lots of things. Fresh veggies, like as fresh as they can be.
So you could get access to it. Yeah.
Well, it's like anywhere, mate. You could get access to anything, depending on who you were and what you had and how much you could pay.
What about gangs within prisons? Did that carry on, like when you're inside?
I think in the 80s, for me, in the 80s, the general picture was you had the criminals and then the junkies.
Yeah.
And the junkies,
that's how it was divided up. So the
pretty much. Yeah. You had the crooks, the good cunts, and then you had the junkies.
Yeah.
They were the fucking shit of the criminal world, basically, because they'd sell their mother for another fix. And that sort of, it remained that way, I think, until, I got out in 1990, in March 1990. And then I didn't go back again until 94. And when I left in 90, that's how it was. You had the crooks and then you had the junkies. And then sort of when I went back in 95, it was gangs. You had the Aboriginal gang, you had the Islander gang, you had the Middle Eastern gang. Well, we had with Aboriginals, the Islanders. With Aboriginals, Islanders sometimes were together, but Aboriginals, Islanders, Middle Eastern, which was like Greek, Lebanese. It was all the wog flavours, if you like. And then you had the white fellas.
Yeah.
The just general population.
Right.
Your general crook.
And so did you have to be affiliated to get through? Could you get left alone? Because I think a lot of people look at that and go, shit, yeah, you go in there. People survive. I've seen people go in prison. I think, how the hell are they going to survive? But they come out. So if you keep your head down and get lucky, you can get in and get out without being fucked over or fucked about.
Again, mate, I think it comes back to your ability, where you come from, who you are, and whether you'll actually stand up for yourself or not.
Right.
But, the gangs now, they've got no morals, they've got no scruples, they don't give a fuck about anything but drugs and money to pay for them.
Yeah.
And that's generally the Aboriginal, the Middle Eastern, Islander gangs, all the same. Whereas before, there was plenty of weed and it kept the jail quiet and it was accepted. And then it became the powders and the bullshit that goes with all the powders. And that filtered into the jail system too.
Yeah. Did your first stint in jail change you?
Change me?
Yeah.
Oh, it just made me more angry. It made me it just solidified my fuck you attitude.
So you came out with more attitude after your stint?
Yep.
And did you feel like, if that's the worst they can throw at me, I've survived that? And
my dad said, if you go to jail, boy, the only thing you're going to get is bread and water. I found out that was bullshit, and I was all right after that.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't that bad.
Well, you didn't get bread and water, put it that way.
Yeah.
So from that point on, everything my old man ever said to me was a lie.
That's what's going through your mind at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I dealt with it accordingly.
So you got out, you're bigger, you're angrier. What happened then?
I went back to the first club. I can't remember if I went to jail again before I moved from where I was with that first club back to Sydney. But at some point, I was fucked off with them enough to move from where I was, where I went and started that chapter with the president. I moved back to Sydney and became part of the Sydney chapter again. And then I think at some point I went back to jail, and I did actually. I went back to jail, and in the process of moving from where I was to Sydney and going back to jail, I got even more fucked off with the first club I was with. And then while I was in jail, I was visited by members of the second club I rode with while I was in jail. And when I got out of jail from that sentence, I joined that club.
Right.
And that's where I started to make money from the activities I was in, not just doing them to help other people, if you know what I mean, and getting nothing for it.
You were starting to build up your own money.
Yeah, I was starting to learn that you needed money to live the life.
Yeah.
And how to go about that while living the life, basically. That was from criminal activity.
Now, there was an offence that you're on the run for a couple of years.
Which one?
This was the one where it was a murder?
Yep.
What's the story there?
I was on the run for about 10 years of my life.
Yeah.
In total. But
so when we talk on the run, I know what I mean on the run, but basically you've gone off charts.
It means you're wanted for an offence by the police and you don't want to fucking go and talk to them about it.
Yeah.
So they've got to find you.
So what, you got a false name? How do you manage that?
Well, in the later years, I managed it with false names, but in the early years, I just managed it with fucking hiding.
Yeah.
Hiding in different areas you're not usually in and stuff like that. But it comes down to how badly they want to talk to you about what you did.
Yeah.
So,
And what's life on the run like? Could you visit your family, or had you gone?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But instead of pulling up in the middle of the day up the driveway in your car, jumping the back fence in the middle of the night, knocking on the back door.
Right.
You do things differently.
From a lifestyle point of view, how'd you find it? Like I'm just trying to, because you can't really plan anything, do anything. Are you always moving?
Oh, definitely. And that's one of the things with being on the run is you have to have money. You have to be able to, earn money, get money, and you have to be able to, I guess, spread that money around when you ask people to do different things that will help you.
Right.
Whether it be from giving you a bed for a few nights to bloody, disassociate themselves from a car and, being able to use that car. Lots of different things, And from your point of view, from a cop's point of view, it comes down to, to not being able to be tracked by phones, and knowing how to use those phones to stay out of there.
Yeah. But it must attack your paranoia, and you must be, looking over your shoulder the whole time.
Yes and no. It's hard to explain, mate. Like, certain things go with certain ways that people live, if you know what I mean. Like, if you're a crook and you're on the run and you're doing shit and whatever else, you've got to know your surroundings, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And know when something's different in those surroundings. And when you start to see different things in those surroundings, you've got to be able to read it and move on at the right moment, or get pinched, if you know what I mean.
And that was your attitude? You trust?
I'll give you an example. When I was down in Adelaide, I was on the run for this murder you're talking about, and I was still with the club, and I was going to visit a certain person regularly. And at one point, this horse float turned up in the street, and it was a really nice horse float with everything sort of secured around in a way that said that shouldn't be there. And I asked the bloke about it, and he said, no, it comes and goes. I've seen it before. I said, are you sure? He said, yes. I said, I don't think so. And 2 days later, his house got raided, and I actually pulled up in the driveway. They were looking for me, and I pulled up in the driveway during the raid.
Yeah.
And he come flying out down the driveway, and he's yelling at me, fuck off, mate, don't do your fucking U-turns in our driveway. And I'd already turned the car off. And something in me clicked, and I just started the car and backed out of the driveway and fucked off.
And that was
but
after
they were there looking for me. Yeah.
So that's your instinct kicking in.
Yeah. You know, I'm driving up the street on the particular night that I pulled up in the driveway, and I saw a couple of four-wheel drives up on the grass verge and a couple of late model small cars. And the instinct in me said, this isn't right. What are they doing there? You know, I've never seen them before. And bingo, when I pulled up in the driveway, turned the ignition off, and he come flying out, everything clicked, and I got out of there just in time. You know, and I handed myself in, I think, after that incident, about 7 months later.
There was a time during one of your periods on the run that you actually got arrested by the cops and processed.
That was King's Cross. That was that incident we talked about earlier.
Yeah, talk us through that.
I was processed in a different name. I managed to get a licence, you know, corrupt bloody RTA officials. I managed to get a licence in a different name, and that was my ID. And because it was checkable, it flew for a while. And I got arrested up the cross that particular night and jailed and bailed under that false name. It actually happened a couple of times, because then I got arrested on 11 kilos of hash and jailed under that same false name in a jail that I'd just been let out of 2 years prior, 20 months prior.
Yeah.
And I ran into a prison officer who breath tested me at Silverwater and tipped me from Silverwater back to maximum security while I was in jail for that 3 weeks under that bodgy name. And I walked to the office to inquire about my bail application that had been approved, and I was waiting to get out. And was his last name, Officer Three Striper from Silverwater Prison. He looked up at the gate to me talking, and his eyes said, fuck, I know you. Where do I know you from? And as soon as he looked at me, I thought, cunt, you breath tested me and got me done on my 21st birthday. You know, and I got the hell out of there real quick. You know, I went and sat in the yard for the next week, waiting for my bail with my head in my arms. You know,
hiding. Yeah,
and the superintendent, I think it was, can't think of his bloody name now.
Yeah,
Arthur. That's it. He actually spotted me in the yard, and he never forgets a face. Never ever forgets a face. And I sat there and I just kept my head on my arms and didn't look at him, because I knew the minute I looked at him, he would call me by my name. And he talked to the guy next to me, you know, and then carried on. And I managed to walk out of there 3 weeks after getting locked up. I walked out of there under that different name, and see you later, and went and had another run at it. Back to doing criminal shit. You
were really living the life of the outlaw, weren't you?
Definitely.
Yeah, on the run, inside.
One of the lifetime members of the club, the last club I was with, actually said that to his missus one night, because she relayed it to me. He said, you know, he actually said to me that you're probably one of the last outlaws as such, living the full outlaw lifestyle, you know? Yeah,
it's full on. So there was another time when you were arrested, I think it was at the Sydney Police Centre, and and let me say here, I'm not condoning how you behave, but it is pretty funny. Talk us through it.
Actually, I was arrested by the crew of one of the officers you've previously interviewed.
Right.
You can mention his name if you like, but the long and the short of it was, some of those officers got sent to the Royal Commission at the time for corruption. And the particular officer that searched me at the house, or the address where we were arrested, I had an amount of money in my pocket, and she took it out and stuffed it in her jacket pocket and basically stole it. And I made song and dance back at the station at, I think, Sydney Police Centre about the money. I told him exactly, the station sergeant it was charging me, told him where it was, what happened to it. He got it back. And then there was this bodybuilding copper that was doing the intelligence photographs and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
He was huge, mate. He was huge. I was no slouch at the time myself. I was about 19.5 stone and fit. And I had a club, Sloppy Joe, with the club name and everything on it. And because we were sort of involved in this drug deal, I'd taken it off, turned it inside out, and put it on the wrong way, so he couldn't see the club name.
Yeah.
And in the charging process, he was doing those bloody intelligence photos and that, and it was my turn. I got up against the wall and I had this sloppy Joe on with the club name inside out, and I had a club T-shirt underneath that. Now, when I went to get the photo taken, I put the sloppy Joe back on inside out so he couldn't see the club name on the shirt.
Yeah.
And he fucking told me, he said, "Get the fucking sloppy Joe off. I want a photo." I said, "What? So you can take a photo of me with my club shirt and my face?" I said, "No." And he goes, "Fucking take it off." I literally dropped instantly. I did the splits in the police centre. Did the splits, did a quick stretch, stood up and said, "Come and tuck and take it, motherfucker." And honestly, yeah, I'm not, not proud of it, obviously, but that's what took place at the time.
And what happened?
He just looked at me for about, I don't know, 5 seconds, and he said, "Get up against the fucking wall."
All right, I'm not laughing with you. I'm laughing at you. You shouldn't have done that. It's wrong. But 6'4", whatever you're weighing, and dropping down doing the splits.
I can still do them.
Makes a statement.
Well, I'm 50 plus now, and I can still do them.
There's no doubt you know how to hold your hands up. That's
I've had to learn.
Yeah, well, that's it's carried you through the life that you're living. Now, with the we talked about the murder, and I know that that's something. And when you talked earlier on about things that you regret and things that have happened, that was something that I think has shaped who you are now.
I think honestly, I think that was the catalyst, being in that around then and being involved on that night and whatever else.
Yeah.
I think that was the catalyst for me doing what I've done.
Yeah. And
that is, when I say doing what I've done, exiting my biker lifestyle, because that night, what took place and what happened didn't sit with me at all.
Yeah.
That's as best as I can fucking explain it these days. It did not sit with me at all. And I had to leave that lifestyle behind after that incident.
The incident
what took place and what happened wasn't me as a person.
Yeah. The incident took place at, I think it was a hotel or a club, and there was an act of violence, and someone was bashed and someone died as a result of it, because of the actions of one of the people involved.
Yep.
That was a knife was produced.
Yep.
You ended up, you were on the run for that, and you were on the run for the offence of murder, but you handed yourself in.
Pretty much 12 months. I think it was, it might have been 12 months. I think about 4 days short of 12 months that I handed myself in from the date of the offence that took place to the, from when I went on the run, which was the date of the offence, to when I handed myself in was nearly a year. And, I had conversations with people involved on that night, and tried to get people to, basically say what they did and whatever else, or what they didn't do, and do the right thing. And that didn't happen. And I did, I think, nearly 6 years for it.
Yep. Because
I was an officer of the club at the time. I should have known that my mates carried knives, and that my mates getting drunk and getting in fights might have used that knife.
Yeah.
And that's on the basis that I was sentenced on. The prosecutor agreed on record that I wasn't the one who stabbed him, and I wasn't the one who did it, basically. But I was there, and I pleaded guilty on that basis. And, like I say, I did 6 years, and 2 years of that 6 years was spent in hospital after a stabbing in jail.
Just before we move past that, so that incident, that offence we're talking about, that's something that you reflect on, and you said a catalyst for moving away from that lifestyle, and that was where you thought, fuck, I don't want any part of this. This is...
Mate, I honestly, I think the circumstances on that night and what took place were a culmination of me basically living the biker lifestyle and getting involved with the drugs that they push.
Yeah.
And what those drugs can do to people.
Yeah.
And I just, the whole night wasn't me as a person, mate, and I just had to distance myself from that fucking lifestyle completely.
I can see it now, mate, talking about it. I know it's something that, it doesn't sit well with you. If you could have your time over again, that wouldn't have happened.
No, not.
Now, talking to another thing, you said, you spent some time in hospital. There's, you were attacked in prison during this sentence, and when I say attacked, it's, how you're still alive, I've no idea, because the intent was to kill you. It wasn't to scare you.
That's the point I made in the first half of this. Was 136 kilos was what kept me alive, and the doctor actually said that. He said, if you weren't the size you were, he said, then this would have killed you.
So do you want to talk me through the lead up and what happened there?
The lead up started in Goulburn Jail. And they received a letter basically saying, and it's a long and involved story with underworld figures and so on and so forth, about how all this took place. But they received a letter in Goulburn saying that I was going to be killed in the yard the next day. And the prison officers pulled me into the office and basically said, look, this is what we've heard. This is how we want to deal with it. And basically they put me on admin segregation because I didn't agree to go on segregation. I was happy to walk back it out in the yard and deal with it the next day. They put me on admin segro and they sent me back to Long Bay in Sydney en route to Maitland Jail, which was they had segregated yards for the different gangs that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And I agreed to that movement, and they instead decided in their wisdom to send me back to Lithgow Jail, where I'd gotten a fight 2 years prior and nearly lost my eye. And then one of the guys who went up on the prison van with me back to Lithgow Jail carried a letter, and the letter basically said that I was to be killed the next day.
Yeah.
And that one of the prisoners we were talking about earlier, he came up to me, and this was quite striking to me at the time because he was a hard cunt in the system, and well known as a hard cunt in the system. And he came up to me in the yard at Lithgow Jail and he said to me, bro, have you heard what's going on? And I said, what? He said, see those two abos down there, the Aboriginals down there? And I turned and he said, don't fucking look at them, mate. He said, they'll know that I'm telling you about it and they'll come and get me. And I thought, fuck, you weak cunt. That's what I thought at the time. And given what I'd known of him, and he was one of the guys I first met at 17. Anyway, I had another Aboriginal friend of mine I'd known for 15 years, and he just 5 minutes before said, I don't know what's going on, bro, but I'm with you. Those two guys that were pointed out started walking up towards me, and so I decided to walk towards them and see what took place. And as I got pretty much...
So at this point in time, you've been given the heads up that you're going to get knocked in the yard, and you're walking towards the people that are most likely the ones that are going to knock you.
Two of them, yep.
Okay.
We were doing short laps. I was walking with this Aboriginal friend of mine, and we were doing short laps. They were walking towards us in a continuous forward motion, if you know what I mean. So as they got closer, I was shortening the laps that I was doing towards them and then back, so that when I finally turned and was facing him, that we were pretty much close together. And as he got within a foot of me, I saw the hand slide inside his pocket, and in one motion he slid the blade up in his hand in his pocket and swung it straight at the left-hand side of my rib cage. And I actually saw it come, and I spun the hand down, blocked the knife, and the blade actually caught on my rib and broke in half. And you heard it drop on the ground. My Aboriginal friend threw his hands in the air there and said, sorry, bro, you're on your own. And he ran away. And I had a short conversation with another one of the Aboriginals. It was decided, you fight him, and it's dealt with. If you knock him down, you let him get up. And we walked to an uncamera.
So this is in the yard after you've got the knife broken off in your chest?
Yep.
Yeah.
This was the second round. And basically it was, you fight him, it's dealt with. You knock him down, you let him up. Whoever wins, wins. And when I walked to this section of the jail, which was unsupervised by cameras or anything. Yeah. And pretty much as soon as I stepped into that section of the jail, 6 or 7 of them come at me with blades out. One of those blades was 52 centimetres, measured by the prison officers who found it. It was measured at 52 centimetres, and it went through just above my belt on the left side, through the centre, nicked the aorta, and settled in the bottom of the right lung. Another 3 into the left lung, because they just sort of all ran in towards me after that. I slipped on the ground. I actually slipped and fell over, put my hand on the ground, got to one knee with my leg out, and that's when the long spike hit me in the left side. It was like downward motion. And I just said to myself, get the fuck up or you're dead, And I did. I got up. Rumour has it I broke one of their jaws. I got another 3 stab wounds in the left lung, side of the rib cage, another 2 in the right. One just above the collarbone, which didn't really penetrated, but probably only a half centimetre or so. And one was swung at my head, was going for my ear. And I saw it coming, and I just sort of tilted the head and caught it just above the ear rather than in the ear. And found a gap, and basically I didn't run, but I quick stepped out of the gap and down towards the clinic. Got into the clinic, and basically, and the next 2 years was spent in hospital, in and out of hospital. I lost pancreas, gallbladder, appendix as a direct result, and went back to hospital on numerous occasions with pancreatitis and so on and so forth, until the last time they removed most of my pancreas.
Mate, that's horrific, the fact that you survived from that. And when you're getting attacked like that, you're reliving it like it's, happened to you yesterday, which I would imagine something like that's not something you're going to forget. You had the sense of mind that you knew you had to get to your feet, and I know you've told me that before in a street fight. Don't go to the ground, and
no, don't go to the ground if you can help it. Yeah, and if you do, get the fuck back up real quick.
Yeah,
but as I slipped and put my hand on the ground, I was on one knee, and that was a spike out of one of the wheelie bins, the rubbish bin.
Yeah.
in the early days when they were made with a 1/4 inch bar as an axle with 2 wheels pressed onto it.
Yeah.
They had them inside the jail system, and they used to pull the wheels off and pull that bar out. And that was measured at 52 centimetres by the prison officers.
And what, sharpened up and...
Yeah, sharpened on one end into a spike and then just a cloth handle taped onto it sort of thing at one end.
Yeah.
And I felt that fucking thing travel from the minute it entered my body. I felt it travel right through my body and had cause to tell the bloody surgeon or the doctor that at the hospital because he didn't believe me.
Well, you probably had no business still being alive, but it would have given them a shock. But that's not a message or a warning sign. That was to kill you.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
And did you report the...
And they were drugs, mate.
That's what it was about? Within the prison?
Yep. I had regular shipments coming in of pot, I
Yeah.
might smoke pot regularly, and I had shipments every week coming into that. And they wanted some, and fuck, I'm a criminal, mate. I don't know you. I don't know who the fuck you are or what you're going to say, so I don't even know who you are, mate. Fuck off. And that's pretty much where it started, and then it sort of continued. It continued over food that was thrown in the bin.
Yeah.
And I said something about it, and they got their nose out of joint, and it just snowballed from there, mate.
You mentioned 2 years.
At some point, members of my own club got involved, and they were given the okay to knock me over what they were fucking whinging about. But they were given that okay.
You mentioned a fight in Lithgow 2 years before that where you nearly lost your eye. What was that one over?
That was over the food.
Yeah.
Initially, that's where
how'd you nearly lose your eye?
I got into a fight with one of them, and another one threw a spaghetti can, 375 gram, full can of spaghetti at my head.
Right. Oh shit.
And the end of the can hit me around my sort of right eye, my nose, and cheek.
Yeah.
And I've still got the impression of the can in my face, basically. And it hit me that hard that the can actually opened on my head and sprayed spaghetti all in the front of me. I'm not kidding.
Mate, you got a weird sense of humour, but
yeah,
that's heavy stuff.
Yeah, I spent a week in hospital with that down in Sydney, I think it was.
And the stabbing, how long did you spend in hospital there?
I was in hospital 3 months the first time. Well, I went to hospital in Lithgow after the initial stabbing. I think I was there overnight and then slotted down to Penrith, and I spent 2 weeks there, and they sent me back to jail with pancreatic fistulas. So I was basically pissing pancreatic fluid out of my guts in 2 holes in my guts for over an hour, probably a litre and a half. And they sent me back to hospital that night or the next day, I think. And I spent the first time 3 months, and then I think 5 periods of a week and a half, then a period of 2 weeks, and then a 4-week period where they took out most of my pancreas. And then I spent the balance of that 2 years in the jail hospital recovering.
Right.
In between the different visits to hospital.
That was the start of a 6-year sentence, 2 years in, 2 years in hospital. You've got out, and I think it's that point in time, I'm not going to go into the details of it, but you've decided that this lifestyle's not for you.
Yep.
And you made a conscious decision to walk away from it.
I'd made that decision twice before.
Yeah.
I think twice with the first club I rode with. Things that happened, it made me leave. But because of the way I grew up and the way I made money and lived, I had to keep going back. I went back to them twice. Third time I left and joined another club. And I learned different things, learned how to make money, learned what it took to live. And then sort of had to set about learning that the way I was going or was being taught to go about that the second time round didn't sit well with me either. The things that we used to do, like I say, most of the shit I did, mate, was kept within the lifestyle and the club scene. There's always people doing wrong by the rules that the club had.
Yeah.
That you could make an earn. Like take their bike. If you knew what they were into or what they were doing, you'd take their shit, take their drugs, take their money, take their bike, whatever. There was ways to make money.
You got a good reason to be able to offer an opinion as anyone else. Prison, do you think it rehabilitates you?
Fuck no, it doesn't. At prison as such, no, it doesn't. From my point of view, yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It took a near-death experience for me to decide that, fuck, I don't want to die in jail. I want to die a free man,
Yeah.
And the shit that people do that I didn't agree with, I had to learn all that. And then I learned that the second time around with the second club,
You found rewards from the fact that you are now, and I think you said something to me a long time ago that you're now living like a citizen and paying taxes.
I'm living life the right way, I believe,
Yeah.
I earn my money, I help people where I can. It doesn't matter who it is or what it is. I help people where I can. I earn my money. I pay my taxes. I contribute to what I like to call the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Society as a whole. It's the fucking hardest thing I've ever done. And if I lived the way I used to, I could have a hell of a lot more. But what I do and the way I do it now, it fulfills me as a person. I think I'm doing the right thing. I think I'm contributing to the right things.
It's interesting. It's a long way round. It's a long way round to find out who you are.
Someone said to my mother once, "Don't worry, you'll come good. He's a good kid. He's just a bit lost." And Mum keeps reminding me of that fact that someone said that to her. And I guess it's come to fruition. It's taken a long time, and I've had to go about it my own way to learn what I do and don't like as a person, what I will and won't tolerate as a person.
Do you see young punks starting out just like you were and want to just grab them and get them to wake up to themselves?
Oh, I do. I do. I see. I still see, and I'm still to a degree around the lifestyle, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And and I see people up and coming in some of these clubs, and I just laugh. I laugh. I think, fuck, you're going to pay, cunt. One way or another, you're going to pay, and you're not going to be happy about the price at the end of it. You have to be, honestly, I believe you have to be a bad person to be an outlaw, to be a fucking genuine outlaw, in every sense, from what I've seen, what I've learned, and what I've moved away from. You have to be a bad person. If you're not genuinely a bad person, you will filter away from that lifestyle in one way or another, whether it be death, jail, fucking waking up to yourself, whatever.
If we're talking a bad person without the ability to reflect or empathy or a conscience, and from what I've seen about you and the way that you've turned your life around, you have got a conscience and you've got empathy and you understand.
I do.
And your family have stuck with you through thick and thin.
From me as an outlaw, an ex-outlaw biker, to you as an ex-cop, you've got no fucking idea how many killers fucking sit in those clubs, mate, and just fucking float through life and don't get done, they don't come to the light of the cops, and I think you saw that on one of the investigations. You just saw just how much bullshit and fucking crook shit surrounds one person.
Yeah.
You know who we're talking about. It opened your eyes to just how much shit can fucking float around one person and how much one person can be involved in so much shit and still not be, you had to find out who he was.
Yeah, I know it's a world that's.
And he's only one person, Gary. There's an inner circle in most clubs, and you have to be prepared to go all the way, do whatever's asked, and not think twice about it to be able to survive in that inner circle. And there's a lot of them around. I've seen a lot of people and a lot of shit done, mate.
Well, yeah, as I said at the start, mate, the thing that impresses me is about people that stories of redemption. And one thing I see about you is the redemption, how you've turned your life around, and full credit to you. I know you're contributing to society now, and you've walked away from a world that not many people can walk away from. So full credit to you. You've always been a man of your word, as far as I'm concerned. I can only judge people the way I find them, and you're rock solid. As I said at the start, I trust you with my life. I consider you a mate. We've both taken different paths. I didn't think I'd still have an outstanding court matter, and you've got a clean sheet. But anyway, we'll deal with that. But thanks, mate, for being a mate, and you impress me.
One of the things I've always remembered, and it's only one thing for all that bullshit we went through.
Yeah.
At the dealings we did have with each other. One comment you made once, and it was a long time ago, you said to me, in another life, you should have joined us. Do you remember that comment?
I do remember that comment, mate.
Yeah. And I took that comment on board at the end of a lot of shit that you said you weren't doing, that I thought you were doing, and it said to me, it spoke volumes, and I should have joined the other side, if you like.
I think we could have cut a swathe through the world you've just talked about, but yeah. But be proud of yourself on the way you're living your life now, mate. So full credit to you, and a privilege. Thanks for coming on this show. I think people will be fascinated by it, and I sit here and I'm vouching for you. I know what you've done and how you've turned your life around. So cheers, mate. I'm sure this podcast may have been very confronting to some of our listeners. This podcast was not about glorifying criminal behaviour, it's about understanding criminal behaviour. What I've learnt working in the murky world of crime is that not everything is black and white. It is very rare that I don't see some good in most criminals. Of course there are exceptions. Some people are just bad to the core and have no place in society. Cunno owns his mistakes. He has regrets for some of the things he has done. And if he's had his time over, maybe he would have done things differently. I think in the violent world he lived in, there was still room for compassion and integrity. He showed me that side of himself. I hope listening to these podcasts gives you a deeper understanding about all the people that play a part in the underbelly of society that people rarely get to see. Cunno has turned his life around and is contributing to society. I think his story and the lessons he has learned might just help others. I know he regrets the people he's hurt along the way, but everyone deserves a shot at redemption. He has my respect. Thanks for listening. I Catch Killers is published by True Crime Australia, produced by Claire Harvey from the Sunday Telegraph and Dylan Adams at Made in Katana. I'm now an investigative journalist at News Corp Australia, attached to the Sunday Telegraph. If you like the podcast, please subscribe to our newspapers.